Welcome to episode 103 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I'm Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Join my best friend the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing this fine Easter weekend?
Ray, as I look out the window of my office, I see the leaves budding on the tree, saying that spring is sprung, and we can't go outside yet and do fun things. But we will soon, Ray. It's just a matter of time. And until then, all of you listening are just stuck with Ray and I in a perpetual 2-hour show about geekdom and sportsdom that you're going to listen to because you have to. That's not true. It's a choice, and we appreciate it.
Yes, we appreciate that
the
you
show
choose
must
to
go
listen
on.
to us every week. Yes, the show must go on.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
Speaking of shows that must go on,
we've got a big show for you today. We got a lot going on.
I was going to transition into our first topic, but we can wait. The first topic's
I was going to say we
kind
have
of a surprise first topic this week.
It's a bit of a curveball, but we got a lot to talk about. It's also been this was baseball opening week. We've also got some NFL news. We got the NCAA tournament. The Final Four is going on as we're recording. We got a lot of trailers this week. A lot of trailers. Trailers,
yeah.
Release
First time
dates.
in a long time, by the way, we've had trailers coming out.
Yes.
Right? That's a big deal. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Disney Plus and HBO Max are like, we're putting everything on. Put all of it on. Yeah. They're like, okay, let's release new trailers. Let's just get them out.
Yes, but speaking of new movies, a big new movie dropped this week on HBO Max. That is what we are kicking things off with. It
and
is
in
the fourth
theaters.
film. And in theaters, that is correct.
Yes.
I'm not going to see that in a theater. I watched it on HBO Max. The fourth movie in the Monsterverse. And who would have guessed it that this would be Warner Brothers' most coherent and most well put together universe? As of course one of the all-time greats of this is from the 50s and 60s, the great monster movies, Godzilla, King Kong, Godzilla versus Kong. We are here. It is a modern take on it, and continuing with there was Godzilla, then there was King of the Monsters, then there was Kong Skull Island, and now here is the fourth film in that series, Godzilla versus Kong. And Lee, it wasn't bad. I haven't seen. I never see the first three, by the way. I didn't see the first three. Because I didn't have much of an interest, but because this is on HBO Max, because I would never pay to see I'm not a big Godzilla guy, so I would never go to the theaters to pay and see those. But the fact that it's on HBO Max, of course I'm going to sit down and watch it. And it wasn't bad. I got some critiques, but Lee, I want to get your thoughts first.
Yeah, so I saw the 2014 Godzilla that launched all of this, and that wasn't too bad. I didn't go to the theater to see them again. I saw these on at home. I did not see Kong Skull Island. I didn't see Godzilla King of the Monsters, although I was very intrigued with that, with Mothra and King Ghidorah. And I was like, oh, okay, they're really going into this finally. And I think it's one of those I just kind of had meant to see, but I probably had a young baby daughter at the time and just never got around to it.
Right.
But for this movie, let me tell you what Warner Brothers did right, Ray. I'm sure there was an executive that walked in and went, oh, I got all these great ideas about Godzilla, and he can do this, and then Kong can do this, and then this is the reason for this, and we'll get really deep about why this is happening. And then some hero walked in and go, no, Godzilla and Kong are going to beat the crap out of each other for 90 minutes, and that's it. That's all that's going to happen. But what about the deep meaning? There's no meaning. We're going to Michael Bay the hell out of this. They're going to fight. It's going to end. People will be happy. And get this, Ray. Get this. Yeah. It's exactly what they did. It's just Kong fighting Godzilla. By the way, this is your spoiler alert now. Everybody knows Kong fights Godzilla before I get into the next part.
And we're going to do a whole spoiler. This is the spoiler cast for this one.
I will say this, though. This has been spoiled so much on the internet. What I'm about to say, you've probably heard anyway. Right. But extremely predictable, but awesome Mecha Godzilla comes out of nowhere. Done absolutely correct, by the way.
Perfectly, yes.
Right? Did a really great job with that he is stronger than Godzilla. Right? Yes. This is the second time I've seen Mecha Godzilla on film in the last 10 years. Ready Player One had a version of him as well. Mm-hmm. And then, in true Monsterverse fashion, Kong must team up with Godzilla. Godzilla, who is the clear winner of the fights, by the way, between him and Kong. And that makes perfect sense. Kong is a giant gorilla, and, Godzilla is a radioactive lizard monster.
Yeah, the nuclear abilities of Godzilla gives him the edge in all the fights. Even though Kong seems to be clearly smarter, using weapons and tools and all this other stuff.
Because he needs the axe.
Yeah.
And he gets Stormbreaker in the film. It's amazing. It has the same powers. And he uses it the same way. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, he legit gets an axe made of a Godzilla, backbone. That can be charged up with radioactive. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty awesome. It's like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, how they explain everything, it's really actually smartly well done.
Well, even how they didn't explain, right? Like, nobody was like, well, that doesn't make any sense that the thing would get radioactive because it's not actually on a Godzilla. No, it was just like, yeah, of course the thing's radioactive. Right. Yeah. And then they team up. They destroy MechaGodzilla. And then they ended the movie right, which is Godzilla goes to the sea.
Yeah.
And Kong goes to Hollow Earth. The end.
Yes. That's it. And they're both happy. Everyone's
happy. Except for Tokyo. Tokyo's in
Hong Kong. They destroyed Hong Kong because they needed to show off. They needed to get that Chinese market. Remember, that's still very important. Right. So they destroyed Hong Kong now and not Tokyo.
And they really destroyed. It's funny. What was fun about these battle scenes is like they really destroy Hong Kong. And anytime they destroy a city in a movie, this goes all the way back to like Independence Day. You cringe a little bit, like, oh, those poor people. And then it got so ridiculous in a good way. You're like, yeah, destroy Hong Kong.
Yeah,
just take it out. Right. It was well done. It was a lot of fun. It absolutely leans into the just let go of your belief of anything and just have a great time. And to be fair, the stuff they did explain about Hollow Earth, it was actually pretty well done. I mean, again, you have to suspend complete logic on all of this. Yes. But it's like, it kind of makes sense what they were saying about Hollow Earth. And for those who know, Hollow Earth is like Middle Earth, basically. It's the space between spaces. Where Kong was king for a long time,
in the core of the earth. Yeah,
exactly. It was really fun. If you're looking for a fun movie that you can kind of get up and walk away from and come back and not feel bad about it, right? Godzilla vs. Kong, great film. High score. I haven't had that much fun watching a movie. I haven't laughed that much either at a action film in a while because some of it's so ridiculous in the best way possible.
Right.
That like I love Eric Skarsgård. Oh, so right. Last thing I'll say. I'll shut up. One of the things I loved about the cinematography in this was that it was super aware of like putting you on the ride, right? And what I mean by that is just a lot of cinematography makes you feel like you're on a ride at Universal Studios.
Yeah, you felt you're at a Universal Studios ride at a lot of points. Like it made me flash back to Orlando, Florida, where with both Kong grabs the ship and it's like and it's like
and there's like this one great scene I really laughed where like Eric Skarsgård and the crew, I'll just say, they come out, and like Kong is right there, and they're all just like, ah! It's just like this. It was really funny, and I was just like, there's a lot of first-person stuff in this that actually I don't think I've ever seen that in a Godzilla or Kong movie before. That really like just lended itself. It's like, it's a ride. Enjoy the ride. So
to get that really close to their jaws and their claws, and it just was. It was well done in a lot of ways.
I liked it way more than I thought I would. Way more than I thought I would.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. I agree. I mean, honestly, for me, it's probably like a solid 7. Like, I mean, it again, you kind of just check yourself at the door. Like, it's just going to be this crazy. And the best parts are the crazy Michael Bay, big fight, crazy awesome. Explosions.
Super fun.
The worst parts of the movie is the slow parts. Like, some of the people there who were, like, I'm not going to lie, like the whole podcaster thing.
Yeah, you want to just fast forward to the next battle.
Exactly. Like some of the acting was over the top and ridiculous, like the human bad guy and stuff, and we're just like, okay, dude, I don't want to hear you talk anymore. Just get me to MechaGodzilla. Let's go.
I do like that they linked King Ghidorah, who perished in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
King of the Monsters, yeah.
They used King Ghidorah's skull to kind of have let's just say a neural link, kind of like a kaiju. I'm sorry, not a kaiju, it was kaiju, to the MechaGodzilla. And then, of course, because Titans are not understood fully, Ghidorah actually inherits MechaGodzilla, which is kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
That was a cool connection,
right.
As to why MechaGodzilla goes on a rampage and whatnot, and they lose
It was just
control.
well done. And the podcasting stuff and the Stranger Things stuff, I was just like, oh, great, there's humans in this too, but I didn't come to see it.
That's like the whole thing about like the dad, and I get it. Like the dad was a big part of like the first couple of films, and so like you have to like have them still there. But like for this, it felt very unnecessary, right? Him and his daughter, they're separated, they come back together at the end. Oh, Godzilla still saved us!
I found you in the middle of Hong Kong where there's billions of people, but we found each other, just like Mel Gibson found his enemy in The Patriot on the hills of... it was good. All the scenes with King Kong, Godzilla, MechaGodzilla, all of those scenes are really fun. Never thought I'd enjoy seeing Godzilla smile, but I did.
Yeah.
All right, it was a lot of fun. I haven't seen a good, explosion movie like that in a long time that I really liked. I really liked.
No, for sure. I mean, this was solid. It's worth it. And it comes in without the credits at an hour 45, which is like the sweet spot that is like perfect. And I also enjoy that they got rid of the big questions like at the very beginning with one line. Where everybody's like, because everybody going up into this was like, well, how did Kong get so big? How did he get so big to fight Godzilla? And the first line is like, well, he's still developing and he got bigger. He got basically saying that in Kong Skull Island he was a baby and now he's an adult. So he got bigger. Yeah. That's it. One line, done, bang.
I also like that, it took so long for, in other movies, Godzilla to get his radioactive breath. And here he's just blah, blah,
From the beginning, just blasting everything he can.
It was just super well done. And then, again, even the stuff in Hollow Earth made a lot of sense. And like, it just was well done from the perspective of the movie. But yeah, really, really fun, really great ride. If you're looking for something like that, mindless. If you're looking for something mindless,
just to completely check this out.
They got Godzilla right. They got King Kong right. They got MechaGodzilla right. That's about it.
And again, much like me, you can go into it without having seen anything else. The only thing, like Lee said, the only thing you need to know is that in King of the Monsters, they killed King Ghidorah. Right? Yeah. They kill all the other and there's a lot more kaiju that have been around the past 3 movies because you also get the skull crawlers from Kong Skull Island come back a little bit. Like you get some other references to some other kaiju, but not so much that if you haven't seen the films that it takes you out of it in a bad way.
I also appreciated that they went out of their way to call Godzilla Gojira many, many times, which is his real name.
Yes.
So I don't know how many of you know this, but Godzilla's name is Gojira. That's what they called him in the original movie, and it was Americanized to Godzilla.
Right.
Now I will say too that Godzilla is still a pretty awesome name. I've actually never had a problem with that name. That worked out to be cool. But they call Godzilla Gojira many times in this film, which is a great nod. I mean, that was actually I don't know how many of you remember the '90s Godzilla film, but it was horribly done.
With Matthew Broderick.
They made a lot of fun of Gojira in that, but this was fun. This was fun. My rating is fun.
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 Gives it a fun rating. Yeah. And like Lee said, the big spoiler, and I think that's probably the one thing that I probably would have enjoyed this a little bit more had I not known MechaGodzilla was coming. Right, but it had been spoiled so many times leading up to this that... Because I think that was built up like as a big reveal, as a big moment. And I think that the fact that like we knew it was coming does take away the weight from that impact. And I could have easily honestly, that might have pushed this to a 7.5 or an 8 had I not been spoiled. But toy manufacturers and all the trolls on the internet, thanks for ruining everything as usual. So we go from something where you really don't have a lot to think about to something where you probably have a lot to think about. We move now back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, Episode 3 of Falcon and Winter Soldier dropped this week with the title is The Power Broker. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks so that we know that it's coming, that it's probably a big villain. The big thing from this episode is they go to Madripoor. Well, 2 big things. They go to Madripoor and they break out Baron Zemo from prison. And now Baron Zemo is probably more liked than U.S. Agent. I'm still calling him U.S. Agent. I'm still not calling him New Captain America. John Walker. People still hate John Walker, and Baron Zemo's like, oh, he's just misunderstood. Even though he's a terrorist. But let's also remember, he also, again, they did a great job. Yeah, the fist-pumping scene in the club. They did a great job of humanizing him and reminding you that he may be a bad guy, but he was driven kind of mad by his grief. And
he's a bad guy, but this does not mean he's a bad guy.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph. Yes, exactly.
I'm a bad guy, and that's okay.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, a lot happened here. They also make references to a couple other minor Marvel characters like Smiling Tiger, which was fun. Who's a new Warriors villain, and Sam, of course, makes the biggest rookie mistake in the history of the world by keeping his phone turned on when he's undercover.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, it was
How
to
does
me
it
that
get
was
cell
like the
phone service in Madripoor, by the way. How's that
That's a
even
good
happen?
point. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know,
gonna
is it-
take. Listen, I was okay with Godzilla versus Kong. I'm taking this to Marvel, Ray. He should not have had cell phone service in Madripoor. It's ridiculous. Can you imagine the rates on that? What does he have? Super Verizon? Unbelievable.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he has a special military account or something.
Right,
I don't
right.
know.
Tony Stark didn't pay him, but he gave him a phone that could go from Madripoor back to wherever. Where were they from? They're from New Orleans. What was it? Louisiana,
from
right?
Louisiana.
Yeah, like okay. Well, I don't know, man. That you know what? This was the Frog Lady part of that episode.
It was only a brief moment. It was really, you know what it was? It was a device to get them out of that
Right.
situation and to bring in the third big thing of this is that we finally get Sharon Carter.
Yay.
Sharon Carter basically saves Sam, Bucky, and Zemo. And really, a lot of things are put in motion here. We learn more about the super soldier serum.
There's one more reveal in this episode, obviously, at the end.
At the end, of course, we get Wakanda Forever. We get the Doja. I want to make sure I say this correctly. We get the Dora Milaje. There we go. I had it written down. We get the Dora Milaje, which is of course the elite female bodyguards of Black Panther. One of them shows up and basically because once they find out that Zemo's out of jail, because remember Zemo killed King T'Chaka, T'Challa's father, Black Panther's father. They're not happy that Zemo's just running around helping Bucky and Sam. So setting up a lot of stuff for episode 4, a lot of theories here. And obviously remember Bucky is still the White Wolf. It's just really, really interesting. We also get more about Carly Morgenthau and her background of her in Latvia and what's driving her, and really how displaced and how basically a lot of the folks after the blip are basically treated like second-rate citizens, and you have these refugee camps. You know, there's a really poignant scene there where she steals 6 months. She's like, you had this one depot was sitting on 6 months of supply for all these camps, and you were just sitting on it. Of course, she then shows that she's still a bad guy as well. It's like, again, she's a bad guy, but she's not a bad guy
She's
or
not
bad
a guy.
girl.
She's not a guy at all. I mean,
Well, right, yeah, well, she's a girl in this.
well, I think here's something that both WandaVision and this show have done, and Spider-Man did not, by the way. We should note that. Is both this show and WandaVision have now clearly stated that after the blip, things were not okay. Things are not okay. They still are not okay. And that, as you said, Ray, we've had multiple characters now refer to, you haven't been here for the last 5 years. You didn't have to experience the last 5 years. Very much in an us versus them type mentality. And then the episode does start out with the global the GPR, the GPC. That's what I said. The Global Repatriation Council.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
I think so. Close
Okay.
enough. We'll take it.
So yeah, so some
Reparation Council.
that whatever it was is out there trying to bring people together. And you know what? I don't think they showed that. There's something else going on with that too that is going to come out. That's probably being created by someone. But yeah, you know, if you saw the episode or you want to see the episode with us, second of the time, check it out on streamlounge.io. You can catch our replays there at any time, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, right there for you. Big thing that Ray and I, prediction-wise, both Ray and I believe that Marvel is either red herring us or making it obvious that Sharon Carter is the power broker. It looks that she has a lot of power in Madripoor. She's picked up in a car. She seems to go wherever she wants unscathed. No one comes after her. After she saves Falcon and the Winter Soldier in Lowtown, no one seems to show up. Everybody seems to stop coming at them. So I've learned that Marvel does not have guts as big as I thought they did, so it's probably just her.
There's it's most likely going to be her. We believe again, and it's also hinted at here. The other big thing of this episode is Sharon kind of does that too, where she hints at to Sam you've not been here the past few years. Things have changed. I've been surviving in Madripoor. I've been off the radar. I'm the one who stole the shield and your wings when you and Cap went on the run to save Bucky.
It's been 7 years for her. It's been 7 years for her. You know?
Exactly. It's been a long so she, a lot can happen in that time.
Right.
And she really kind of insinuates that there's a lot of reasons why she doesn't want to go back to America, both the legal reasons, but she also kind of hints at the fact that she's really kind of established herself with a life here in a very interesting, very nice way. she also has access to a lot more intel that's just never explained than like anybody. Like it just feels like she's so well connected that she has
something
to be,
there. It's something
the
there.
power
It's
broker.
a very big loose end that I don't think Marvel's making big loose ends outside the cell phone in this episode. So it's just it was a great episode, the best one yet of the series. Really kind of setting up the last 3 episodes. You can tell it's it's like I feel like we just jumped off a diving board and we're about to go full speed.
Yeah.
And
the
into
other
water.
big thing is that Sam is really dealing with the weight of his decision to give up the shield.
Right.
Bucky's still mad at him. Zemo kind of makes fun of him for it. Sharon is very mad he gave up the shield as well. Like it's kind of starting to weigh on him, and it makes you think that we know at some point they're going to get the shield back because in the trailers him and Bucky are playing target practice with it or whatever. Right. So at what point are they going to go back after U.S. Agent, get the shield back, and this might be something, I'm going to put this theory out there. What if they tie up the loose ends, like tie up the Flag Smashers in like episode 4, and then episode 5 and 6 is them versus U.S. Agent getting the shield? Like there's a lot of factors still here in play. That's just something I'm throwing out there. I just kind of thought of right now. I don't think this is going to end with Carly Morgenthau versus Bucky and Sam, however, though. I think something big is going to happen next episode. And then the rest of it will be resolved in the next 2 episodes. And that's my prediction, along with, obviously, Sharon as power broker. So,
I'm not going to make predictions because Marvel made me look like an ass when we did that with WandaVision. I'm just expecting really good episodes. And I will say, I think that Sharon is working for the power broker. I'll say that. Right. I do believe that the super soldier serum is going to come into play. We talked about this on the episode. I don't know if Sam is going to get it or not. I would not be surprised if he did, just to make him a full-out Captain America with super soldier serum. But we don't know. Some people like that idea. Ray does not like that idea. It's okay. It's all about how it's done, to be honest with you.
Right. Basically, this episode also reveals there's 12 more doses of the serum out there.
Yes, 12.
Dr. William Nagel.
12.
Yeah, 12. Yeah.
It's 12 till they need more, and then there'll be more.
Right, exactly. Dr. William Nagel, who's actually is a character from the comics in kind of a reverse order. He was the doctor who took Erskine's formula and made Isaiah Bradley, who we know, of course, now as Black Captain America, introduced last episode. That's in the comics. Here, They did the reverse, where basically America took Erskine's formula and created Isaiah Bradley, and then Nagel took America's work and kind of recreated it now many years
later. Which they've done successfully.
Using his blood sample. Yes, I think that was a smart play.
Marvel has done the reversal well. I mean, they just did it with WandaVision, too. WandaVision, there was a reversal of House of M in a lot of ways. At least it seemed to be for a few episodes. But, yeah, look, here's the question I do have, Ray, is that we don't have to be specific about this, but do you think that this show has somewhat of a predictable ending like WandaVision did? Or do you think there's going to be a massive twist at the end? And by massive twist, by the way, I don't mean like, multiverse-altering type things. I mean just something we didn't expect that's going to really be like, wow, now we have to wait for this movie.
No, I think this is gonna tie up very neatly.
I think so too. I think so too. I think you're gonna get a Captain America at the end of it. That's what I think.
That's exactly. I think Sam. Again, I think Sam takes up the shield, whether he gets the serum or not. Again, I'm against it. Lee's for it. I'm not for it. I'm saying that I could see it happening. That's what I said. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, but I think Sam gets the shield. I think Sharon's the power broker. She stays in Madripoor. Or she gets her pardon, and then she can you get the reveal that like, now I have access to all of America's resources, and like she kind of becomes like almost like a maybe.
Does she team up with Zemo? I mean, there's a lot of things. Like the other thing about this episode,
there's little things there that you can do, but I think that there's not going to be a huge twist.
I agree.
Here at the end.
I was also intrigued by Zemo's mask, which he kind of picks up in this episode. That he seems to put it on. Mask. He seems to put it on when he needs some abilities, but I don't know if there's anything coming from that. We'll find. It just was very weird that he put his mask on and took it right off again when he was fighting. So I wonder if something's going on there. He put it on and
seemed to almost be a super soldier himself.
Right. It'd be funny if it was like an Iron Man mask. He is rich. That's the other thing we find out is he is a true Baron.
Yes.
They also did a great job at the end of this episode talking about Sokovia, and what happened to Sokovia is that, if you guys remember in Age of Ultron, it's destroyed. It's completely destroyed. Yeah. And Baron Zemo says, before the dust settled, the vultures from the opposing states were coming in and taking everything. And I really like that. I really like that they did that. It's funny because it was Sokovia, right, that was dropped, meaning that him and Wanda have common heritage.
Yeah.
So I again just throwing that out there. I wonder what that means, right? You know what I mean? Zemo and Wanda Maximoff are from the same place.
Yeah.
So that's
I don't see them teaming up anytime soon.
Oh, I don't either. But it's funny to think about, right? It's funny to think about.
It is true. Yes.
You could have a great throwaway line later in another film of Wanda being like, the Zemos? But I know the Zemos, but
and this is something that I just thought because it's crazy because it is that type of the world. What if that's also where you get Doctor Doom from, and then he takes that land back and makes it Latveria, which of course is the fictional nation of Doom that he ends up making in Europe.
I am glad you brought that up because with Madripoor, they are really tapping into X-Men worldly places now, which is what Marvel does. They tap on things before they dive in. But Madripoor was chosen on purpose. That is a massive X-Men tie-in. And I'm sure it will in the future. It's a good bet that Logan or James Howlett, a.k.a. Wolverine, was hanging out there, but we didn't see him. Just going to choose to believe that.
A.k.a. or as he likes to call himself in Madripoor, Patch.
Patch, yeah. Patch Adams. No, that's a totally different character. It was a fun episode. This show is I'll say it, it's better than WandaVision.
Yes.
It's fun. It's Mandalorian level good. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Actually, we've been saying that on Stream Lounge actually a couple of times. That it's on that level, and it feels good week to week. Whereas WandaVision felt kind of torturous because it kind of got so dragged out. But
WandaVision was its own enemy. How they did it. And again, it's a shame, Ray, because the marketing is really what hurt it.
What did it in? Yeah.
Yeah, I really, at some point, I'm not ready yet. At some point, I do want to go back and watch it again without kind of knowing what happens and seeing if I can okay, that was more enjoyable. And we've had, like I said, even the last episode. I watched the last episode of WandaVision multiple times. It's much better after you get past all the what's going to happen. It was actually a pretty good episode. You know what I mean? So it's just but sometimes movies can do that. We talked about the same thing with Godzilla vs. Kong. It got out real early about MechaGodzilla.
And it hurt it.
It hurts the film. It hurts the film. Yeah. So, with that said, Marvel does a really great job, better than anybody else. I think WandaVision was the first screw up they've had outside Tom Holland. Talking, but which is funny because now he's in a movie where you can read his thoughts. His thoughts are out loud, which I thought was really funny. I was like, of course he's in that movie. I wonder if you go to see that movie. He's like, Spider-Man 3 takes place in another dimension.
Yeah.
Ray from Star Wars. What? This is weird.
It's
Ray Skywalker.
Man. Yeah. Speaking of Marvel movies, we had a lot of trailers. We had a lot of information this week in general. But first, we're going to start off this morning. We're recording this on April the 3rd. Black Widow has dropped a new trailer. Really highlighting the Taskmaster, which a lot of people on the internet are like, he looks stupid. I'm like, he's Taskmaster. The dude wears a skull on his head. Like, they did a pretty decent job of modernizing him. He's got the Taskmaster shield. His big thing is that he can see what other people have done, and basically he has a photo memory for physicality. And he even does a Hawkeye trick shot in the trailer at one point to blow up a car. I am super excited to see Black Widow, who's this expert hand-to-hand combatant, take on Taskmaster. And by the way, I don't think we're going to get a surprise like this, but Taskmaster is also a classic Captain America villain. And so the fact that they're establishing him in here, it's a big deal, at least going forward. I don't think we're going to see him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we can see him going forward. We've seen Crossbones come back. We've seen Zemo come back, obviously. I think that we saw Batroc the Leaper come back in the first episode.
Right, if he survives. So the trailer was really good. Heavy Avengers vibes. Ray and I were talking about that. A lot of Avengers music and a lot of Avengers footage. So, and here's the thing. I totally think that they made this trailer recently to tie it back in to hey, you care about these characters. You should care about Black Widow again. Remember, this movie is a year past when it was supposed to come out now. Over a year. So the trailer did its job. It definitely got you interested again. It basically tells you, look, there's tie-ins here to the Avenger films that you've probably seen that you need to know. You know what I think, Ray? I think in Avengers Endgame, when Black Widow sacrifices herself, we were all pretty accepting of that. Mm-hmm. But I think this film is going to make us even more accepting of that for some reason. Why she was so okay doing that, right? The impossible decision. Yeah. But, it looks really good. There's some footage in this now of a younger Black Widow. that we never got to see as a child.
Yeah.
And then it looks really fun. We'll have a full review of that when it comes out on Disney Plus.
Yes. The future is here.
It's now. Future's now.
Speaking of the future, this is an interesting tidbit. It's supposedly been announced that Russell Crowe is joining Thor, Love, and Thunder. And for those who don't know, this immediately got the internet speculating that they're going to do... There's a storyline in the comics where basically...
Jor-El is going to fight Thor in a great multiverse crossover. And then Henry Cavill's coming in as Superman. It's going to happen, people.
No, not quite.
That's not what's going to happen. That's not what's going to happen at all.
But yes. But he could play an older Thor. Right. Is what they're talking about. Is that there's a storyline where old Thor, in order to avoid his death, his prophesized death, goes back in time, gets young Thor to help him to overcome it. And a lot of people are saying Russell Crowe, big white beard, kind of makes sense that he could. That's what a lot of folks are saying. There's other characters he could play, but that's probably the front runner right now. It'd be curious to see if they do that, especially because we know Thor's in space with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
As Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. So as they're hunting down, I guess, other Gamora.
Gamora. I will now refer to her as Other Gamora for the rest of her days.
Well, because we know Other Gamora's dead. So, but then there's another one from the other timeline that's now in our timeline.
Other Gamora.
So, I mean, I don't know what else to call her.
That's fine.
You need to differentiate them.
Right.
But yeah, so Russell Crowe joining Thor, Love, and Thunder, it's a big deal. Obviously, whatever Marvel does, they chose him for a very specific reason. But I think the idea of him playing an older Thor, a more Odin-like Thor, makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, and we know we got multiverses and time travel and all that other stuff, so it makes sense that for them to possibly do something along those lines. But I trust Taika Waititi as well, so we'll see what happens. But 100%. I think that's a fun signing.
Taika Waititi, who absolutely saved Thor 1,000,000,000% from becoming incredibly boring. I don't care who he plays. I'm a big fan. Another fellow Australian. Not me, but for
Chris Hemsworth. Yes.
For Chris Hemsworth, he is an action stall Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's in the film, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah, I think it's a good call, and yeah, I don't know if they're going to do old Thor.
I honestly don't. Whatever he plays, I'm sure it's going to be great. I mean, look, I thought he did a great job as Jor-El. Now that we're talking about it, I thought it was a perfect casting as him as Jor-El.
Yeah, he actually did do a very good job
in Man of Steel.
He learned his lines, unlike Marlon Brando.
Right, and then it was really well done. So, and like you said, he's in the Hall of Fame of action stars, and he's definitely living the Hall of Fame retired life of I will come into your movie, play a part, everyone will love me, and you will be entertained. Get it? Get the reference? Get the reference I did there?
Yes.
He says, "Are you not entered?" Okay.
Gladiator. Yeah. But yeah. Actually, so I just want to quickly mention this. I saw this interview, an old interview with Terrence Stamp, who of course played Zod in the original Superman trilogy with Christopher Reeve and Marlon Brando, as Lee mentioned it. And I just saw this interview this week, and he talked about how Brando got around not knowing his lines as Jor-El. And that basically they put the cue cards for him up in the lights so that he kind of had this far-off look, and it's actually him reading his lines because Stamp confirmed he refused to learn his lines, except for one. He said he had to learn one line because it was started with his scene of him looking this way, so he couldn't look up at the lights in this far-off glance. So, and he was talking about how before the take, Brando was stressing over this one line. He was struggling to remember it so much because I don't know if his mind was just that far gone or he just didn't care that much or what it was on. And then he turns around and then he goes right, and his eyes go right back up to the lights. And Stamp was like, "Yeah, but that was cool."
Even though you live with humans, you are not one of them.
Yeah, so it was kind of, that was a funny story that I had heard. And we all had known that Brando didn't bother learning his lines for that movie, but to learn how I didn't specifically know that's how he got around it, was that the cue cards were hung from the lighting rig for him to walk, and blown up to epic proportions for him to see them. So anyway, speaking of DC films, 2 DC films got canceled this week.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not that heartbroken over them, to be honest. The Trench, which of course was a spin-off from the Aquaman films, was killed this week, and also Ava DuVernay's New Gods had the plug pulled. I think this is again them trying to consolidate the universes, trying to say that the Snyderverse, aside from what's already been greenlit and basically shot in terms of like Aquaman 2 and Shazam 2 and whatnot, that like they're kind of done with it, and that kind of as we've been talking
about. Is Shazam in the Snyderverse? I mean, people would say it is, but it could easily not be. They
could kind of pivot from that if they wanted to.
It might be funny because remember, Henry Cavill was supposed to appear at the end of Shazam as Superman,
and they cut his head off.
And they cut his head off. It wasn't actually him, right? So that I remember people really annoyed about that, but that might actually be a blessing in disguise, because look, you can't do Black Adam without Shazam.
Correct.
Right? You can't do it. It's impossible. I mean, he might not have to be in the first film, to be fair.
Right.
Okay, but you can't do it.
But going forward, you need Zach Levi.
Right. So, or you got to recast it, right? So it's like, which I think would be horrible because Zach Levi perfectly.
No, that is the perfect character for
him.
Yeah.
Right. So, very, very interesting move there. But look, I think what's happening here is they have Black Adam, and they have Flashpoint. And I believe Flashpoint's going to be the conduit towards, hope you enjoyed the Snyder films. Look, it's The Rock! Oh my God, President Dwayne Johnson! And that's going to kind of be the pivot. And I'm glad they're getting out of the Snyderverse. We said this last week. Snyderverse is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen. I know a lot of you do. It's not going to happen.
No.
They're not banking on it. You got what they gave us. I should say we got what they gave us.
Yeah.
Which was a nod to Zack Snyder and a $30 million ad for HBO Max.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, I do not believe that Zack Snyder would want to continue this universe personally. I haven't spoken to the man, but I have a hard time imagining he wants to pick up the mantle and keep going. He wants to move on to other projects, and I don't blame him.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. I think at this point, people should be thankful they got what they got. That they're whining on Twitter actually got a mega corporation in AT&T and Warner Brothers to capitulate to your demands. And I think that I think it's just let it lie.
Yeah, keep in mind they won two. They won two. They got everybody.
Well, yes, I mean that's the thing is they turned it also to their advantage. Everybody signed up to HBO Max for at least a month. For it.
COVID made this an incredibly successful venture. All right, that's what I'll say. It worked out in the worst possible reason. But it did. It played into it. So listen, I'll say this real quick, Ray. Not to jump off topic here, but HBO Max has got to hit a home run. I think they did with Godzilla versus Kong. I'll say Godzilla versus Kong was a great triple. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So it's an RBI. All right.
Yeah.
But Mortal Kombat, we're going to talk about another one in a minute. And a few other films have to do well, or I will cancel my subscription. I will. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
because Wonder Woman 84 was not great. Godzilla
very
versus,
okay. Yeah.
Yes. Godzilla versus Kong was solid.
Yeah.
A lot is riding on Mortal Kombat for me. Honestly, I agree.
Yes, and another film we're about to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that one. First, before we transition away from DC, I also want to mention, going back to your point about Flashpoint and all this other stuff, they also announced this week that the Batman, the Robert Pattinson film, is being set on Earth 2. Specifically, coming out and blatantly saying, different universe, getting away from all that stuff. It's a completely different Earth, and I think that is a huge, huge deal to again say that, look, the Snyderverse is going away. The Snyderverse is, we're tying up, we're putting a bow on it. It's going to be its own thing. Flashpoint will be the swan song for that universe, and we're going to relaunch everything. Like I wouldn't be even surprised if Robert Pattinson somehow makes a cameo in Flashpoint at this point. Now that the fact that they said it's a multiverse.
Yeah, but, Flashpoint's going to bring everything together. Like I said, it'll be a departure, but also an entrance and other things. Keeping in mind too that that Flash has appeared in the Flash TV show. Which is the first time that a cinematic character was ever in a TV show together. So with
Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller's best appearance.
Yeah, it was. He actually did a good job with that. But they came out. They said this will be Earth 2, which is very specific. I do not think we'll hear about this in the film. I think what DC has done, which they always find loopholes. DC is basically saying, look, if we feel like making standalone comic book movies, we're going to do it. It'll just be on different Earths, right?
Exactly.
Which means that Michael Keaton's Batman's on a different Earth, so forth and so on.
Yep.
And like, look, man, the thing with the Batman is I just want a great story. I'm actually hoping that feels a lot more like the late 80s, early 90s Batmans now.
Yes.
Like, I just want to just give me a good Batman film. Or to be the Christopher Nolan Batmans too. Like, to be totally fair. Just give me a good Batman film. That's all I want. Make more, and if it does well, make another one. Seriously.
Yeah. No, definitely. Most definitely. That brings us now going back to HBO Max. Like we mentioned, the other big trailer that dropped today, and for something that will be I think HBO Max in theaters day one as well, right? Because it's July 16th, 2021. Space Jam 2. We got the first major Space Jam 2 trailer. We've got the basically the premise they got that basically LeBron James' son falls into. I love it. He said LeBron as he chases says like, "What in the Matrix?"
Matrix hell. What's in the Matrix?
Yeah, exactly. His son finds like this portal to another world, this computer world that's run by evil Don Cheadle, which looks great as well.
War Machine is the bad guy.
Yes. And LeBron chases him, and of course, basically Don Cheadle kind of like, you have to beat my superstar team in a game of basketball to get your son back. And I'm gonna have you go, and here I'm gonna send you to the Toonverse, and that's where you got to start. Have fun, and it looks fun. Honestly,
it looks great. It looks totally great. Talk about another movie you gotta suspend belief, right? You know, a few things. LeBron James, at least in the trailer, looks to really do well in this part. It looks fun, right? He doesn't need much range to play himself, but it looks like he's gonna have a lot of fun. The tunes are great. A lot of jokes in the trailer. A lot of IP property in the trailer, which I really loved. I love it when movies kind of go into that, their own little multiverse. It looks great. I'm excited to see it. I really am. I love that the bad guys are now the Goon Squad, not the Toon Squad. I thought we went by Monster Mountain or whatever the bad guys were in the trailer. They go by a lot of different planets.
The Monstars, yeah.
The Monstars, right? And there's a lot of like Clay Thompson is a bad guy in this. Like same premise. The big difference being that the Looney Tunes are in 3D. That was a big difference from the first one where they're 2D.
Yeah, there's a point where they transition from 2D to 3D. Yeah.
Right, and they made that very clear in the trailer. And same thing, LeBron is at one point animated, which is awesome.
Yes, and very different from the first film, and I think it's a smart move, yeah.
So question is, Ray, will Michael Jordan appear in this in a cameo? I'm going to say yes.
I hope so. I hope him and Bill Murray. And Wayne Knight. Bring Wayne Knight back too.
Yeah, I'd be all for that in a lot of different ways. But no, this is LeBron's film. It looks really fun. And again, I always love... You know when the trailer got me? The trailer was good. But where it gets me is when he's falling. And I'm like, you better do it. And he's falling to the Toon world. I'm like, you better do it. And then you see it. You see the spiral. It goes... I love it. You know, the other thing that I was kind of glad to see... Because, you know, we have a kind of a sensitive audience sometimes, not our show, but in general. But they show Yosemite Sam just shooting at the beginning.
Yes.
And I love that they're not taking that out.
Yeah.
It's like, there's some things you can't take out of Looney Tunes.
No, it was very funny. Daffy's like, all right, Sam, shoot the ball. And he pulls out his guns. And
Pistol.
Also shooting Daffy's bill off his face, which is a classic gag, of course, as well in Looney Tunes.
So I'm looking forward to that film. It looks good. I'm not a LeBron James hater. A lot of people are. Like, if you don't want to see this because they don't like LeBron James, the problem's with you.
I was at the beginning of his career, but I turned later on.
Well, it's like a Tom Brady scenario. It's like you got look, it's a Tom Brady scenario. It's one of these scenarios that's like deep in my core, with every fiber of my being. I hate you, but God damn it, I respect you. That's where we're at with a lot of these athletes. Same with Sidney Crosby in a lot of ways. He's still whiny as hell, but you got to respect the guy's work. You can't not. He's one of the greatest of all time. Yeah, no, for sure. That most definitely. And speaking of the greatest of all time, probably the greatest of all comic conventions is ComicCon. It's kind of like the Mecca. It was really the first back in the 70s. And they've been struggling. They of course went online last year. They said they were going to go online again this year, but now because of it looks like, knock on wood, some not to get political yet. We'll get actually into that later in the show, but some states seem to want to rush people back into stadiums and stands and take away mask mandates when we're so close to getting mathematically over this. We literally need like 4 more weeks of vaccinations. But Comic-Con, the folks who run Comic-Con,
ComicCon International have announced that they are doing San Diego Comic-Con this year, that they are going to have it again this year, and they're doing a special version of it over Thanksgiving weekend, to which the entire internet was like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? I am all for Comic-Con this year. All for it, having it being delayed and doing it in November or whatever. I also understand that New York Comic-Con is the first week of October. That looks like that's going to still happen. Why are you doing it over a holiday weekend? Do you really think that...
Where everyone will be traveling, by the way.
Yes.
Everyone.
Everyone will be traveling. Everybody will probably be going home for the first time in possibly a year and a half if you were really like adamant about the lockdown.
Yeah. Not to mention there's football on too.
Yeah, it is. Then there's Black Friday and all the shopping. If this feels like if Comic-Con wasn't struggling before, and I get that they were struggling before the COVID times. There were talks of them leaving San Diego for a long time and all that other stuff. Better offers in LA and Vegas and convention centers that can actually hold the convention, because San Diego is a very nice town, but that convention center is a dump, and it hasn't been able to hold that convention for years. Trust me, as somebody who's gone to almost a dozen Comic-Cons now, that convention center is and as somebody who has for 7 years spent his life was going to convention centers and conventions. San Diego Convention Center is one of the worst in the world. Bottom line, I'm sorry, it is a fact. In terms of the size and scope and its amenities, this might kill it, because I just don't know. I don't know anybody. I've already told my boss, like, there's no way we are doing this on Thanksgiving. We are not doing this. And I know a lot of other folks who have put this out there to their superiors as well. A lot of vendors, a lot of game places, a lot of comic places. Like, look, if Warner Brothers wants to send a skeleton crew down there, let them. But for smaller companies and whatnot, we do not support this. This is ridiculous. We want to be with our families geeks have families just as much as anybody else. It's why at the end of July, it's fine. Who's doing anything at the end of July? Oh, my summer vacation. Yeah, I'll go down to Comic-Con. I don't want to spend Thanksgiving in San Diego with 100,000 smelly nerds. And again, those are my people. Those are my people. It is the truth. But some of y'all have some hygiene issues. I don't want to spend Thanksgiving with you. I'm sorry. It's the truth. So I think this is a terrible idea. I'm sorry I went on a rant there, a mini rant, but I think this is the worst idea. And if this spells the end of Comic-Con, so be it, because there's plenty of other conventions out there. Lee, your thoughts?
Sorry, I just let you finish up there, buddy. It's a horrible idea. It's not going to happen. They'll change it.
I hope.
They're going to change it. First off, unless it's a completely online pre-recorded event, they're going to change it.
That's the thing, though. They said this is going to be in person. They want this
That's
in person.
That's not going to happen. They're going to change it. They really are. I don't believe that's going to happen.
I hope that the backlash that they got from this does prompt them to change it.
I don't know who came up with that idea, but I believe that will not happen.
Yeah.
Just like I believe there will not be another PlayStation.
We're going to get into that in a couple of seconds as well.
I wasn't trying to get you there. I'm just saying I'm going to start using that. I want it to be known. I documented it so when people in the future go back and they can say, that guy said that back in 2021 and 20, but nobody listened.
You actually said it in 2020.
I was like, but nobody listened because of the pandemic. I did say it in 2020. You're right.
Yeah, so so Comic-Con, if for somebody out there listens to us that works for Comic-Con International, please either move it to like the beginning of November.
What are you talking about, Ray? They're at home like, I didn't do that. I don't want it to be that either.
So hopefully, wisen up, because I get it too. Like downtown San Diego, and I've said this. This is a wonderful fact that I learned in my many years as a journalist down there, talking to one of my favorite things to do when I go on the road is to talk to people who live in the towns that are affected by the conventions. And I'll never forget this. Is that one restaurateur came out, because we were, I had a crew there with me, and then he came out. They wanted to thank us for the business and yada yada yada. And I was kind of like, so let's be honest. What does Comic-Con do for you guys in terms of financials and stuff? Like, I mean, it's crazy. And that's why also a lot of places, and he said it, he's like, it's why a lot of us have like a Comic-Con menu. We limit our menu, we shrink it, we give people less options, but it also means we spend less money on food and other things because we don't need to entice as many people to come here because people just need a place to eat. That's why you have usually a Comic-Con menu at a lot of restaurants close to the convention center. But he's like, because even still, I make 6 months rent for this building in the 4 days of Comic-Con. That's a mind-blowing amount of money. Like, and a lot of these businesses in San Diego are struggling because they're not getting that. They didn't get that income the past year and a half from conventions and whatnot. So it is a big deal to have Comic-Con. I do understand that, especially in a place like San Diego that doesn't really have a lot of other conventions, or at least ones as big as the ones that we usually go to. But this is a bad idea. You know what's a good idea? Netflix buying the rights to movies to get them onto their service, and they have now spent, listen to this, $450 million for the rights to Knives Out 2 and Knives Out 3. Knives Out starring Daniel Craig and Jamie Lee Curtis, and was this great little mystery movie by Rian Johnson, who clearly shows that he can still do movies as long as they don't have Star Wars in front of them. And this is a big deal because they're basically saying that. Then you've seen this was Coming to America 2 with Amazon. You're seeing these studios, streaming services, buying up the rights to movies and basically cutting out the traditional movie producers and basically being like, we want them on our service first because, as we've said here on the show many times, that is the future. Lee, what are your thoughts on this mega deal?
No, I think it's within the right to do it. I don't think the film companies have any standing ground right now, and I think that the streaming services are going to do this as much as they can until theaters open up again, and the right to do it. Again, we talked about this. We touched on this, I think, off the show, Ray. But look, that new agreement that films only have to be in the theaters for 2 weeks. Like, I don't think many of you understand. Yeah, that is a nail in the coffin, right? Yeah. That changes everything, right? So. I know we have a lot of traditionalists on here that love going to the movies. I love going to the movies, all right? But I'm also a fan of progress, and this spells progress, okay? So the home experience has evolved to a point where having these at home, we're fine. I didn't feel like, I mean, with Godzilla vs. Kong, I'm not saying I wouldn't have enjoyed it in the theater, but I didn't lose anything by watching it at home, in my opinion, that film, okay? So it is what it is, and people have to come to terms with that. But yeah, no, this is just another aggressive move by streaming services to say that it's not coming, it's now. It is the now. All right, several of the biggest films, actually 100% of the biggest films over the last year were on streaming services for obvious reasons. But this trend started before COVID. They had the top TV shows. They had the top films. You saw what Adam Sandler's movies, which are not great, have been doing on Netflix. This is the future. Yeah. It's the present, excuse me. It's the present and the future.
It is the present.
Until something comes to destroy that industry.
Yeah, and it's funny though. It's also it's the present now for movies. It's probably the future for video games as well.
Easily.
We're gonna get into the streaming services now. Google Stadia. We've said this a lot of times. It's not. It doesn't pay usually to be the first, but Google Stadia, which is struggling right now. Obviously, they closed their development studios and whatnot. They're still around, but they are struggling. They were the first streaming service for a game, and actually. It's funny, we kind of get into maybe a little bit of this later, but like this is a big reason why there's a big push for more infrastructure right now in this country, and that infrastructure would directly benefit the games industry and directly benefit a lot of these potential game streaming services because you need the infrastructure to make it happen, right? Like, I mean, it's one thing for me in LA or Lee in Philly or somebody in New York where there's a lot of infrastructure for Wi-Fi and Fios and fiber optics and stuff like that. It's a lot harder to get to stuff to somebody in Oregon or Nebraska or New Mexico. Not saying those states are like, technical. They don't have the infrastructure as the coast.
Ray, we have people in South Dakota that might listen to this show. You just left them out. Wyoming. Indiana.
Okay, I apologize. You get my point.
South
I was just trying
Dakota, we apologize. North Dakota, we love you.
Yes, we love all the states and we love all of our listeners. The point
West
is that some
Virginia.
of you. Some of you don't have the infrastructure that the coasts have, is the point, and so it's tough for things like Stadia to get a footing. But that's also not stopping other companies from trying. Amazon just announced Amazon Luna, which is now their version of this service. Amazon, though, similarly is closing their game studios, so I don't know if they're just trying to directly compete with Google.
Yeah, Luna, nighttime, lights out.
Yeah, it's
sunset.
Yeah, so it's kind of a curious decision, but to have these mega corporations behind this, you hope that they can help push the infrastructure for this, because it is the future, probably to the point where you no longer have to download a 100 gigabyte video game, download a 100 gigabyte video game. Yeah, I just had a glitch. Wi-Fi just went out for a second there. We had
that wasn't Ray, everybody. That was just the recording.
Yeah.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled broadcasting.
Reboot mode. Reboot.
Max Headroom over here.
Yeah. I'm tired. I haven't eaten, folks. I'm tired. Sugar levels dropping. But yeah, no. What ended up happening was, it's a big deal that you're going to be able to get these games directly onto your systems. Speaking of games on your systems, this is a huge one. But actually, wait, before Lee, I'm sorry. What were your thoughts on Google and Amazon Luna?
What you said.
Awesome. Fantastic.
What you said, seriously. It's first through the wall, gets themselves bloody, but that's the future. That's what I'll say. It's obviously the future.
Yeah. This was a big deal. Speaking of games on services and whatnot, even I have finally adopted Game Pass now for Xbox, because Xbox announced yesterday this is a huge, monumental deal that not only is MLB The Show 21 coming to Xbox this year, but it will be a day one addition to Game Pass, which means if you are a subscriber to Game Pass, you get the game for free, like Lee and now myself. And also because I had Xbox Live Gold, my first 6 months actually in Game Pass are entirely free.
Not for free. You're paying for it.
Well, yes, you have. It's part of your subscription service, right?
I want to be accurate with that, because it is not for free. And like Ray has already had people texting him angry that they pre-ordered the game. Technically, I'm going to be paying more for this game over the course of a year than you are. So it's not for free, but it is convenient as hell.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. And it's like people say, basically, if you get 2 games on Game Pass a year, it's basically paid for itself. But the fact of the matter is that because especially now that games are going up to $70, and like Lee mentioned, and actually that's part of the reason why I glitched. I had my friend still angrily texting me because I told him that's not my problem, that you made a mistake and that you got the show for PlayStation, and you already dropped your $70 on the pre-order. Yes, you'll get the game a couple days early, but that's part of the pre-order bonus. But I'd rather have it be part of this subscription service that I now know I'll get many, many other games on it for. And I think, a lot of Sony fans are very angry. And I've actually had also several Sony people who were diehard Sony people from PlayStation 1, 2, even PlayStation 3, and then, of course, PlayStation 4, who have said, I made the switch. This generation, I made the switch. The Game Pass is just too good of a deal. Again, we talked about it last week that Microsoft is positioning themselves to try and get the Ubisoft games exclusively on Game Pass. They are trying to corner the market to basically say, look, Sony has their exclusives, God of War, Uncharted. They don't have baseball anymore, but they're getting to the point now where if Microsoft can corner all the market and Sony doesn't respond, and thus far they have not responded, This could be, speaking of nails in the coffin, and going back to Lee's prediction, we might not have a PlayStation 6 at this rate, because at this point, aside from brand loyalists, Microsoft's got all the chips on the table, man. They've got the cards. They got pocket aces now. Like, they are playing with house money, and they are wheeling and dealing.
And they're not going to sit back. And that's the other thing that I want to talk about. There's a lot of people in denial over what I'm saying, or that, like you said, brand traditionalists. Look, man, the writing's on the wall here. This is not something that I think, and I'm not spiking the football here or anything like that. That's not where I'm at yet. There's a lot of time before this happens. Yeah. But it's like, look, the writing's on the wall here, what's going to happen, all right? Mm-hmm. We just talked about Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, Peacock, all of them, Paramount. I mean, where do you think it's going on gaming? Like, where do you think that's going to go?
Yeah.
Right? Why do you think they would put MLB The Show, their first PlayStation game, on there?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get as many people onto their subscription streaming gaming service as possible. Now, what prerequisites might they be looking at to realize that that's going to be a successful venture? What would happen, Ray, if 90 million people signed up for Game Pass?
Yeah, I mean,
how much money is Microsoft bringing in? Again, denialists. The writing is on the wall. This is done. This is not. That's why I'm predicting it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a denialist.
Right.
I'm a realist. You can see where this is going.
Yeah.
I don't see a future for PlayStation in this world. And I don't see, this is the other side of it. Because when I say that, people get angry. This is the other side of it. What is going to be more beneficial for Sony? Think about this as a business person if you can.
Yeah.
Is it going to be more beneficial to come up with a PlayStation 6 with potentially exclusive games that is going to have a lot of questions marks around it?
Yeah.
Or to just create games, get them on Microsoft, and profit like hell?
Yeah.
What is the smarter option?
Yeah. And actually, you know what actually I'm thinking is, because we always can't forget about Nintendo in this. Nintendo still has
Nintendo's on its own island, and
right.
and they
still
always
have a
will
huge
be.
share of the market. But
Right.
remember, the reason why the PlayStation came about was because Nintendo decided not to put a disc drive with the N64. They decided to stick
Right.
with cartridges. And Sony, after doing all that research and tech, decided, like, well, you know what? We're just going to do our own system. And then obviously it made a huge splash and was
Right.
instrumental in bringing
It pushed the whole medium forward. It did.
Yes.
And Nintendo, and actually everybody won in that generation.
Yes, actually, at the end of the
Dreamcast.
day, everybody was a winner, and we had
Yeah.
except for Sega, yeah.
Which, by the way, is the same exact thing that's happening now. I'm just saying, putting that out there. What happened to Sega is going to happen to Sony.
Well, and what I'm thinking and what I'm going with this is that much like most of Sega's games now go onto Nintendo systems, especially Sonic.
Right.
Although,
right.
what if Sony not only got out of the console game, but then actually went back to Nintendo, helped get their tech get up to the next level, and put some of their then you'd have a 2-horse race again.
Maybe.
I think.
I don't know if Nintendo would even take that. Nintendo doesn't need them.
No, that's very true, because
Right.
Nintendo, unlike a lot of these other companies, Nintendo has such a stable of first-party exclusives.
Right. Well,
they can stand,
listen,
like you said, they can stand on their own island.
They could survive. Like, check this out. I find this amazing. Nintendo could survive if they never made any other games. They could survive on Mario, Zelda alone. All right, not to mention the entire Smash Brothers universe. But my point is, it's like,
Right.
And I'm not even talking about, Metroid or some of these other.
Well, Metroid,
classics,
Donkey Kong, Pokemon.
Right.
Like, there's
that's my
so
point.
many that
It's
Nintendo
like
has.
They
in
can
their
survive forever without this stuff, right?
Right.
Just what look what they did with Pokemon Go.
Right.
All right, so like that's what I said. Nintendo is always going to be on its own island with a lot of this stuff. Okay, so like that's why I didn't even include them in the conversation. I don't think Nintendo wants to compete with Microsoft anymore. Like, why would you want it? Why would you want to go on it? They're not going to beat them.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Microsoft is a titan. If we're going to make this going back to Godzilla versus Kong, all right. Microsoft is a titan. Nintendo is not. They're not. All right. Money wise. All right. It's not close.
Well, but
right.
it also needs to be said, though, where Nintendo makes a lot of money, where they're very smart, and why they also do well is not only do they have these first-party properties,
Right.
but licensing.
Massive. Yeah.
Obviously, they have in Universal Japan. They have the Super Mario World. Like that gets them a lot of money. Obviously, action figures, toys. That is something that Nintendo does better. Cartoons than Microsoft. And so Nintendo again will always be okay on their own island.
That is why I didn't even include them in this. They're an enigma, and they're. You want to talk about brand loyalty? That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the difference between Disney and Illumination. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just a little bit different, right?
Right.
But no, just going back to what we said, right? Like, I don't know how many instances, and this is not just a big one. This is tidal wave large what they did with MLB The Show, and it will not be the last game they do this with. Plus, here's the other thing, Ray, and I don't know if you're gonna know the answer to this. I have a hard time believing that they did this without Sony's blessing. All right, people are gonna say, "Oh, they just did it." I don't think so, because Sony would never give them any other game again if that was the case.
Right.
Sony knows what's going on here. Sony said, yeah, do it. See how it works. We'll give you more games if we make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah.
Money game, okay? Not to mention that monstrosity that is the PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
This is obvious. This is obvious. And like I said, money-wise alone, if I had to bring this down to one thing, money-wise alone, it's not even comparable what Microsoft has in the bank versus Sony.
Yep.
It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
That's it.
No, it's true, and I'm with you. I'm with you. I definitely think, like, I mean, again, I've always agreed with your prediction. I just, I'm always a bit more cautious, just
of
because
course, no, it's fine.
You never know what's going to happen. But
you want another prediction? You want another quick prediction? Will we even have another console?
Yeah.
All right, like I was talking to Kasey. That's his shout out for the episode. It just happened to happen there. I was talking to Casey about this. Like, look, I have an Apple TV. Apple TV is about this big.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that Microsoft... I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you're telling me that the next Xbox won't just be really small and it's a streaming device?
The only reason why we don't have that yet is because
disk drive.
Still is disk drive. And the reason why we have disk drive goes back to the infrastructure from our last topic, is that once it gets to the point where Microsoft feels, because like it's one thing streaming a TV show, it's very different. It's much more power to stream a video game.
Right.
And I think that once we have the infrastructure in a lot of these cities around the world, which is actually why I'm kind of surprised that I wouldn't be surprised if at some point Microsoft and Amazon kind of like go to the government and like kind of start pushing for this more too.
Make their own.
Because it only helps them. That's why you have Google Fiber now too, right? Like where you're starting to see.
And then on top of it, Ray, is the pandemic has launched us about 10 years forward technologically. Yes. So it's just I just don't. We're at the start of a new console generation. Do not think there'll be a PlayStation, and I'm not convinced there's even going to be a large console. There'll be something. You'll have to buy something.
You'll still need a device,
right?
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to concede that. All right. You'll buy something. Right. But I think that it's change. Everything's going to change in the next generation. 6-7 years from now, things are going to change, and I would not be surprised if Nintendo leads the way on that. To be honest with you, we'll find out. Yeah, we'll see.
We will see. But this was a big deal, and I know I'm not the only one. There was a lot of folks who were on the fence, who wanted to see, am I going to go PlayStation or Xbox this year with MLB The Show? And again, I have a lot of friends who are very angry that they pre-ordered for PlayStation.
Yeah.
So
look, to your friends that are angry, we're paying for it too. Just, we're just not paying up front for it.
In a different way, yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Why would you pre-order anything nowadays?
Well, that's always my thing too, right? Is I always, in my Twitch stream, and I warn everybody as well, if I pre-order something, I pre-order like the day before to get the pre-order rewards. Like it's like I do not pre-order anything months upon months in advance. You're just gonna shoot yourself in the foot, and you get yourself a Cyberpunk situation.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only people that can be upset about a pre-order this year is the Cyberpunk people. Granted, you shouldn't have pre-ordered that either, but I understood the hype behind it. It looked pretty solid. Keanu Reeves was putting his seal of approval on it. Yeah. Luckily, he got to run to Bill and Ted 3 and be like, "Look at this movie! Look at this movie!"
Yeah.
Remember,
we have fun. We're having fun, guys.
We're having fun in this movie. Look at my movie, right? Oh yeah, I'm making The Matrix 4 and John Wick. What about Cyberpunk? What is Cyberpunk Matrix? The Matrix is better than Cyberpunk.
Yeah. So yeah, no,
Mr. Anderson, welcome back. We missed you.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that movie, by the way.
Yeah, so speaking of baseball and video games, we now move to actual baseball as we transition to our sports section. It was opening week this week, opening day.
Phillies are 2-0, Ray. They beat the Braves twice. World Series coming our way. No, I didn't watch, but I'm happy the Phillies are winning for the Phillies fans out there. I am.
Yes. The Yankees are 1-1. They lost opening day because Aaron Boone is terrible. Yes. And they won today. It did not. They won ugly. A win's a win, but they won ugly today, 5-3 over the Blue Jays.
Matt, can I say something before we jump into the major topic here?
Yes.
Almost everything in baseball is kind of controversial this week.
Yes.
The one thing I want to say is, and I will say this. This is nothing to do with Major League Baseball in a way. Mm-hmm. I am really happy to see fans back in baseball parks enjoying baseball.
Yes.
I do watch some highlights. I get look. I want to clarify this because I'm not going to be an active participant in watching baseball this year, but it doesn't mean I don't watch sports highlights. I enjoy sports highlights like everybody else. It's really cool to see a walk-off home run or a home run in general and hear the fans. I think that's really special. I think it's great to hear that fans are back in the park. I've gone to a pro sports game. I think they're doing it totally right in terms of COVID protocol. I felt very safe. We know enough about it now to not get sick. So to all the major sports that are allowing fans, and which was very controversial when they started, Ray, it's great to see fans back in the building in a safe way.
Yes, we know enough now to keep everybody safe, unless, of course, you're a Washington National, where you have a massive COVID outbreak and you cancel your opening weekend series against the Mets because a quarter of your team has COVID now, and you forgot to set up your taxi squad like you were mandated to by the league. I hope the Nationals lose draft picks and lots of money for this, because this is 2 years in a row now.
It's just been forfeited. I don't know why. Again, another horrible decision. Punish your players. Forfeit the games. You're down 0-4 now. That's it.
That's it. And
deal with it. And I like that plan because it helps the Phillies out. No, I'm just kidding. You got to punish them.
This is 2 years in a row that the Nationals, by the way, have had the big outbreak to kick off the baseball season. This happened last year. Juan Soto, who missed opening day against the Yankees because he was under COVID protocol.
So nothing will happen, by the way, just so you know. Right. Nothing will happen with this because they have no guts with this type of stuff with their own players.
Right. Exactly. It's baseball just doesn't seem to know what it's doing. And in a lot
when
of
it comes
things,
to baseball,
yes, because it's just baseball, but this brings us to our.
I know that was a perfect transition. When it comes to the sport, baseball has lost its freaking mind.
Yes,
even my dogs agree. If you can hear that, all right.
But in something that I personally agree with, they did something this week that was very interesting and fascinating. In fact, I texted Lee a picture right before we started today of. They quickly had to rip all the patches off of their uniforms this year in Atlanta because Major League Baseball made the announcement yesterday that the All-Star Game will not be held this year in Atlanta. They are moving it elsewhere. They haven't announced where yet, but this is a big, big deal, and this comes hot in the heels of many, many other corporations from Coca-Cola, Delta, Hollywood Studios have moved out of Georgia. And hold on a second, let me get my Pepsi from New York, and not Coca-Cola from Georgia.
Wow, Ray, that's the best drop-in you've ever done. I was not expecting it, and now I wish I had a Pepsi.
Yeah. So I went to the store last night. I'm like, I'm gonna put a Pepsi on air. It's gonna be hysterical. I love it. So yeah, I hope you heard that in the microphone too. The crack open of the can.
We could. I heard it very clearly, and
awesome.
I needed that before this very sensitive topic. So I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. But but even Coca-Cola, who of course is based in Atlanta, Delta, because of obviously Atlanta International Airport is the biggest international hub in I think the world, but definitely the country.
It's massive. I've flown through there many times. It is massive. Yeah.
They're all speaking out against the law that was passed this week here in Georgia. The state legislature and then the governor signed it into law, basically trying to restrict the voter rights. For sure, you have less time to get mail-in ballots. Your mail-in ballot needs to be in by a certain date now. The hours to which you can go to a polling place have been restricted more, and there's been a lot. This is, again, it's a sensitive topic, but I am of the opinion that this is a terrible law. This restricts and is trying to purposely make it more difficult to vote and exercise your right to vote in the state of Georgia, and it's a good thing. And this is, again, the economics is part of politics. They go hand in hand. And all of these major corporations understand, it's basically the Montgomery bus boycott on an extreme level, right? To a grand level in a lot of ways, but in certain ways, right? Where that was a boycott where the people were boycotting the company. Not only is this people boycotting certain companies, but it's now the companies themselves coming out and saying that they don't want to be affected. And again, the big one was all the Hollywood productions leaving Georgia. That's a lot of local money that is leaving the state almost instantaneously. Baseball doing the same thing, basically saying, fix this, change this, go back to the way it was, give the people the right to vote. This is something that we've fought wars over. We've died over this. This is the women's suffrage movement in the 1920s. Like this is something that has been fought for. And again, the civil rights in the 60s and fought for. People have died over this for generations. And so understandably, a lot of people are mad, and it's not just Georgia. Texas is doing this. There's other states that have implemented certain laws like this, and I'm sure they're going to start feeling the backlash of that too. But Georgia's are probably the most restrictive at this point, which is why they have been the focal point of this issue. And Lee, I am always for people's right to peacefully protest, And that's what this is. This is a peaceful protest. You're not going to hit him in the face. We're going to hit you in your wallet. And so, Lee, I want to hear what your thoughts are on this. Again, baseball typically gets everything wrong, but in my opinion, even a broken clock is right twice a day, and in my opinion, they got this right.
Yeah, I've given this a lot of thought because, I'm very sensitive about talking about politics publicly. Politics are somewhat of a private thing for me. Yeah. But as I said to Ray, actually, before we even finished the rundown for the show, like, we're going to have to talk about this this week. There's baseball once again putting me in a horrible position. Yeah. It's just ruining my day. No, look, here's the deal. I take for those of you, I will say this. I am registered independent. Ray will back me up. I'm fiercely independent, and depending on the issue, sometimes I lean left, sometimes I lean right. It depends on the issue, right? And what I want to talk about with this is not whether or not, I agree or disagree with what's happening, all right? From a surface standpoint of laws restricting people to vote, from a surface perception standpoint, I agree with you, right? Like, I agree with you 100%, all right? Yep. But what I worry about, Ray, and follow me here, okay? What I worry about is the hypocrisy behind a lot of these decisions. There's clear virtue signaling here. Now, that's not always a bad thing, okay? It is a good thing when organizations, leagues stand up for something. And what these businesses and leagues are standing up for, from a perception standpoint, is absolutely correct. That we want people to vote. That we want better laws that help minorities and inner city people get to the polls. Right. On a surface level, I agree with that. I can't disagree with that. But there's also hypocrisy to this, all right? In the sense of this, I'll give you an example. And there are consequences that come with decisions like this. Delta is a great example.
Right.
They pulled out, and the state said, fine, your tax exemption is gone. All right? And they did this. Now, as you said, Delta, massive in Georgia. And Georgia's basically saying, you're not going to make us look bad and double dip and take this tax exemption. Right? So follow me here. I'm not saying I support Georgia here. That's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with that is Delta can't have one and not the other. And that's why I said, like, I wonder sometimes how sincere these companies and organizations are. Now, when it comes to sports, this is not the first time a league has moved an all-star game. I think this happened in Charlotte not too long ago with the NBA. And then Charlotte changed something and they went back there a few years later. All right? The Braves, really kind of shockingly today, came out with a statement not supporting the league, saying that, we had hoped this would become a place for a conversation. Which, I mean, look, in hindsight, like, that's virtue signaling too, where it's like, we were going to talk about it. What are you doing? Like, give me a break on that one, right?
Let's be right. We're not going to talk about it. They're mad because them too. They're the organization is specifically losing money.
Well, and local businesses are too. So again, but hotels, my point here is, again, and this is always the plight of being an independent, is like, you weigh everything, right? The other thing too is that this is my big point that I'm going to make. All right. And you obviously feel free to retort, Ray. I'm not trying to like end the conversation or anything like that. Nothing is going to change for the better until we can start communicating again together. Right. Nothing's going to change. And it's not so much the act of the league leaving the All-Star game, not doing it there. It's all I'm hearing is, and please, I'm not actually saying this at you, Ray, but all I'm hearing is, they're right, you're wrong. And all I'm hearing from Georgia is, they're wrong and we're right. And it just does nothing to bring this country back together. Nothing, right? And like I said, with most issues you're going to find somebody who agrees, someone who disagrees, right, but no conversation will take place. And Ray, I would actually say, I'll say 8 times out of 10. I won't say 10 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10. 8 times out of 10, everybody kind of wants the same thing, right? Yeah. It's just different ways of getting there.
Right.
So my worry with moves like this is that it just enrages half the, well, maybe not half the country, enrages a section of the country. I think most people are for what's happening. But it enrages some people, and it enables other people to a right-wrong mentality. Right. Which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that when conversation ensues after.
Yeah.
Okay? It's wrong to me when no conversation ensues. And it's just keeping the Kong references on there that, so when it comes to the thought process of there is a law that prohibits people from voting, it makes it harder for minorities, it takes away the ease of voting. It doesn't take away anybody's right, but it does not make it easy on paper. It takes away
polling places and drop boxes.
Because they're not restricting people from voting, to be fair. But there's potential there to keep people from the polls. They want to add an
ID now to mail-in ballots. Like they are trying to make it harder.
See, but this is again. I'm not trying to open up a can of worms here. This is the problem I have with a lot of the arguments. People will say they don't want an ID for voting, but if I switch this argument to gun rights, it's a totally different thing that has to happen for registration. So, and I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm not trying to go into that
because the thing is that to me those aren't equal. Those are not equal.
Like I said. Yeah, like I said, that's the thing. Like you say that, someone else would say differently. I'm not here to argue that. Okay, like that's my point. I'm not. Please, I know you have strong feelings on this. I'm not trying to do that. Okay, I'm being truthful with you, Ray. Okay, if you want to have another discussion about that, we can do that. I want to stay on what I'm saying is that none of these are conducive towards conversation. To anyone that agrees with the league leaving Georgia, leaving the All-Star game, not there. Sorry, taking the All-Star game out of Georgia. To not also admit, and this is where I stand, that there is some virtue signaling there. At some level, that there is a marketing aspect to this.
Oh,
to me is crazy.
For sure.
All right?
No, for sure. Look,
and I question the league's real intentions of, are you just bowing or do you really believe in this? And again, I'm not saying they're doing either or here. I think that the players believe in this and they have the points.
Yes, the players have been 99% of the players have been very vocal about all this.
And this is the other thing I think about, and this is what in my opinion, doesn't happen enough. Okay? We're not talking about what prerequisite this is setting, or precedent, not prerequisite, sorry, what precedent this is setting, right? You and I both agree that athletes and leagues, that if they want to make a statement, they can make a statement. I never had a problem with that. Yeah. This goes all the way back to Kaepernick, right?
Well, it even goes back further than that. You go historically, Olympic athletes protesting Berlin,
totally. I meant
Muhammad Ali protesting Vietnam.
This is more recent politics, but you're absolutely right, okay? But my point is, I think I've said this on the show before, that I have no problem with anybody speaking their mind. They probably shouldn't, but that doesn't mean they should. That doesn't mean they don't, right? It depends on the issue too. So what I'm saying here is this, is that I don't know if what the MLB is going to progress anything. And Georgia is absolutely not going to change this law. Okay? Yeah. I can tell you that right now. That's not going to happen. That's Georgia. That's always been Georgia.
Yeah, no. Right? The way to change the law would be for people to get out and vote in 2022, despite these laws, and get in elected representatives who better reflect your opinion.
And that is the way it should happen, to be fair, right?
Yeah,
like that's the miracle of this country in a lot of ways.
Right. But I think that's also, not to get into a bigger issue here, I think also part of the problem, particularly in this case, is that a lot of the people who are supposed to be there to represent the people, despite this law being historically unpopular, they put it through anyway. Which is a case of, it feels like the government trying to say, we know better than you do, even though you all hate this, we're still going to do it anyway. And that's something that I think has been plaguing the country.
I'm going to have to hold my tongue on that one. I mean, I'm going to have to. That's the whole government to me. But
that's what I'm saying. It's a problem from coast. That's a problem from coast to coast. This is and again, I say that again. Garcetti and Newsom here in California to Cuomo in New York. Trust me, there's. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying this is a prime example of that, and I think that people need the duly elected representatives of the people need to start representing the people.
Something Ray you said that you and I both kind of said, but you said this, and I totally agree with you. Is it's not the people on the left and the right, it's the politicians on the left and the right that are ruining everything.
Yes.
I'm under the belief that most people are just trying to get by and live their life. All right, there's some bad ones, there's some good ones, but majority of people in this country are not trying to cause problems. Doesn't mean they're good people, but they're not trying to cause problems. All right.
No, the majority of people just want common sense things to get passed and
Right. But the problem is that common sense is also, unfortunately,
at a premium now in Washington,
well, it's
DC
perspective, right?
Else.
It's perspective. Like, look, one of the things I learned, and I'm not trying to one-up you in any way. You've lived in multiple places. I've lived in multiple places. But one of the things I've learned by living in other countries, living in other parts of this country that are not like the part of the country I grew up, is that 50 states, it's 50 different way of living. It's different mentalities. It's different cultures in some ways. You know, when I lived in the South, and I did live there for 3 years, I saw a different viewpoint on the American experience. When I go into the inner city of Philadelphia, I see a different viewpoint of the American experience. When I'm in the suburbs, when I'm in Los Angeles, when I go to Europe, different viewpoints of the human experience.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have, Ray, with a lot of people is they just tend to think their viewpoint is right. And it's not, for me, about being right or wrong, right? It's not about that. It's, it's understanding and having a conversation and learning from each other. I learned a lot by living in the South, by talking to people in the South. And some of the cliches were right, but a majority of them were not right. When I lived there, they were good people. They just believe something in a different way.
No one's saying that the people of the South are bad. We're saying the politicians of the South are bad. I'm joking. It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
No, it's not. I don't disagree with you.
No,
I think the politicians of the North are bad. But
again,
my point
is
this.
Anti-politician, I think.
We really are. Yeah, like we really are. Right, unless we're the politicians.
Right, exactly.
Carcillo Elias.
2024,
30, whatever,
or 2032. Us versus The Rock.
Yeah.
That'll go well.
Well, we're old enough to be president now. But anyway,
we are.
The thing is this.
2020.
You should have. I'm going to write you in on the next ballot unless The Rock's on there. Here's the deal. I'm just rounding out my point. I want good conversations, conducive conversations. I'm a proponent of that. The Founding Fathers were. Anybody with a mind in this country, of any race, of any creed, of any background, that progressed the country, made conversations happen. Malcolm X, Ben Franklin, Rosa Parks. I mean, you can go through all of these. You could go through history with this.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm not a big fan of virtue signaling if a conversation doesn't come out of it. Now, with that said, and I do have to say this, because a lot of people are like, it's just virtue signaling, and they're just doing it for the marketing. Reversing what I just said, there is also a reason they're doing this, a belief there too.
Yes.
It's not black and white. It never is. Right? So I do believe that Major League Baseball, I should say people within Major League Baseball do agree with, on some level, the
Players Association and the players themselves push for this kind of a response. So this is representative of a lot of the viewpoints of a lot of the people in the league.
I just think we're so quick to act now, and again, sometimes it's warranted, but what I would have liked to have seen here, Ray, is like the Braves suggested, which again, I don't believe them, but I wish the Braves had come out and said, you know what? This is a serious issue. Let's have a conversation about it before you move out. And then they could have done a whole initiative about it. Yep. And then whatever would have happened. But, like I said, this is not limited to this issue. The problem I have right now with the American experience when it comes to issues like this is you will show me one article saying X, I will show you an article saying the opposite. Yeah. I do not know what to believe anymore. Yeah. Right? It's all perception based, all opinion based. And you have to kind of go with your gut on most things now, and most of the time it's in the middle. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this. I know it's confusing, it's all over the place. I appreciate you listening to all of it. Like I said, I don't like to discuss my personal politics on the air. If anybody wants to talk about that, you can always feel free to message me. I'm not against having conversations. All right, but if you're just gonna message me, I had this problem with someone on a site the other day. If you're just gonna message me to tell me, you're smarter than that, or this is why you're wrong, or this is why I'm right, that's not what I'm looking for, right? That's just not, I have no interest in having a conversation about you tell me when I'm wrong or you're right without the conversation part of it. I have no desire to do that.
You need to make an argument. You can't just label someone as
that's
wrong
our conversation,
or right or stupid. And also, I want to go to the point where you mentioned that certain articles obviously lean left, certain outlets are obviously certain right. Totally. It also goes into the tech thing, which is why Facebook and Google need to be regulated as well, because they know the algorithms. And if you tend to lean left, they know your voting history, they know all this other stuff. Right. They're gonna feed you when you do in your top of your search engine left-leaning articles when you look this stuff up.
They want you to stay on Facebook. Yeah.
The same thing for the right. And I think that's what happens, and it only has intensified and strengthened a lot of our bubbles.
Here's a question. I'm not going to answer this, and just putting this out there. If you trust Facebook, or Google for that matter, to be the moral authority on what is truth, you're out of your mind.
Yes.
You cannot trust anyone whose job it is to make money to give you the truth.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. All right? And to prove that, Ray, I have, and you know this, we, not just I, have made separate entities that are not business affiliated to put other views out there, this show being one of them.
Yeah.
I would never try and put on like my hockey channels, my business channels, moral authority of truth to the people. That's for them to decide.
Yeah.
I will always tell the truth. I always will tell the truth. You know that about me.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You don't have to believe that as a consumer. Yeah. And every study shows as a consumer. This is the funny thing because the data's out there. Everything shows that consumers do not trust companies. Everything shows. That if you give a review for my company or I give a review for my company, they're going to naturally believe you, even if I am telling the truth, because they just don't buy the companies that are telling the truth.
Well, yeah,
Google
and
Facebook are massive, publicly traded corporations that do not care if you believe them or not. They want you to stay on their platforms.
Yeah.
Wake up to that.
And I mean, and again, it also goes why a lot of the news stations, going back to making profits, is why the news used to not be a profitable or venture. And of course, if you've never seen the movie Network, I recommend you see the movie Network, folks.
Totally. Totally agree with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what ended up happening, and that's why now the news makes things more sensational to keep you watching, because they make the news as profitable as anything else on television now, and that is television's original sin. There,
yes. They
could not get the money out of news.
This is the last non-sports thing I'll say. Mm-hmm. Whatever news you watch,
it's biased.
And I just anybody, whatever news, local news is probably the best still, but whatever news you watch, if you watch any network news, I'll put it that way, just know that their entire business model is built on commercial breaks and making sure that you don't change the channel. Mm-hmm. Now, what tactics might they use to make sure that you don't change the channel ever? Breaking news. You heard it here first. Fear, scare. The world is horrible. Friends, go outside. Talk to your neighbors.
Yeah.
Call a friend. Turn off the news. I promise you, if you turn off the news for a week, nothing's going to change in your life, although that you'll be a lot more happy and more stress-free.
I've seen this on multiple channels, folks. Not saying, again, both left and right.
It's every network news.
Yes.
I don't
They
care
keep the
what
breaking
name
news up graphic now for news that's 48 hours 48 hours old. They just
not even
keep
news.
It up.
Yeah. Well, keep it up for not even news. Breaking news, the sun is out today.
Yeah.
Like,
breaking news, it's spring today. Happy Easter.
And the only reason I say local news, which is on the same model, by the way, is that they're not the political agenda doesn't help them because it's being done by other places. That's why it's the only place you can go to probably get a good story. But even them, if you live in a city, tonight on Action News, murder in the city, and then more murder in the city. It is important to know about that, just so you know. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, there is good news out there.
LA, in particular, probably has the worst local news. As somebody who's lived in Pittsburgh and Jersey and around the New York area, and obviously now out here in LA, LA has the worst local news because they think they're Hollywood, so they try to make it as entertaining as anything else, and it's absolutely disgusting. I can't watch the Los Angeles local news. It's not worth it.
I beg Ray not to watch the news. I tell him that. Please don't watch the news and then call me.
I've been better about that lately.
You have been. You've been in a better mood. To be fair, right? So, look, again, hopefully you haven't changed the podcasting channel yet, but I will say to everybody, talk to your neighbors. Go outside. If you want to feel better, take action. Help someone else. It'll make you feel better. It always does. Gratitude and helping others will always make you feel better. Always.
Yes.
But turn off the TV. Get out. COVID's almost over.
Yes. Go outside while listening to our podcast.
Yes, don't turn this off. Get your headphones and earbuds.
Yes.
There's 103 episodes for you to listen to, and I'm going to be honest, if you haven't listened to all of them, that's absolutely okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so a bit of a heavy topic there.
Sports.
It was a necessary topic.
Get us out of this.
Moving from...
Damn you, Major League Baseball. Damn you once again.
Yeah, baseball ruins everything.
Everything.
Moving on to Moving on to football.
Football!
Got some fun football news. They have officially announced they are expanding starting next year to a 17-game schedule. There will be a fifth interconference game now. So like the Giants and the Eagles are in the NFC. Typically they play the opposite AFC division or one opposite AFC division. They will now also play an extra AFC team every year to get that 17th game.
I want to say something, Ray, because we
Yes.
had people fighting us on this.
Yes.
The main reason for the extra game, Ray, what was it? Do you know?
Money?
Money! Right, because the leagues lost
A lot of money.
billions
lot
of
of
dollars last year, as we said they would. They had people coming out saying they were selfish and they were just doing this for the money. They lost billions of dollars as a league last year.
The first time in a decade they shrunk the salary cap.
Right. It is one of, I'm going to say this, and I think history and hindsight will prove us right. The major sports leagues coming back, not only just necessity to stay alive, all right, but they did that knowing they would lose billions of dollars.
Yeah.
They probably would have not lost as much by not opening. They did that for us.
Yeah.
And I nodded my cap to them last season when they did this. All of the sports leagues, I'll even include baseball in this, even though they were horrible about it.
Even though they messed it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it has been reported that all the major sports leagues lost billions of dollars, and I want that to be out there because again, the corporate greed thing, which we just talked about, it's not always the case, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a lot of gray area, but I'm excited about 17 games. Sure, I think did they remove another preseason game?
I think that they are. I think it is going to be
Right.
only 3 preseason games
Right.
now. So I think that's
Right.
the
So
balance.
and no one's arguing. The players aren't arguing about this because they know they need money.
Yeah.
Like at some point, the NFL went to the players and said, "Guys, look, we're hurting and we need this extra game."
Dak Prescott, you want $40 million a year? You got to come out for this.
Yeah. Listen, well, this is where labor negotiations really come into play.
Yeah.
And it's a super exciting, not at all boring topic. I'm sure all of you would love to hear a full podcast on labor negotiations, which I studied, and it was a fun class. But anyway, 17 games is great. It's totally have money. They're expecting full stadiums too.
Yes, by the time football season starts back around, knock on wood, we should be past this. Hopefully,
Right.
again, unless we screw it up in the next 3 weeks. But everything should be.
Like every team's getting an extra game, right?
Yes.
And at least half the teams are getting an extra home game.
And then the next year, obviously, it'll flip flop. Right.
This is probably a 5 or 10 year plan to recoup what they lost this year. Or
Right.
actually, it's a 16-year plan to recoup what they lost last year.
Yeah, so there you go. Also, just fun thing, this is the first time that the NFL has not expanded the schedule. I should say that first time that they've done that since 1978, that is the longest stretch in NFL history, actually, where they haven't expanded the schedule. So it was 32 years. So remember the NFL back in the day, I think it was like 10 games, and it was 12 games, and it was 14, then obviously expanded to 16, and that seemed to be the sweet spot for the longest amount of time. So that's a historical fact. That's fun. It's been a long time since there's been a schedule expansion. Also, there were only 2 teams that did not have a quarterback throw for at least 4,000 yards in a season during this 32-year stretch. 42 years. Excuse me, 42.
Guess who they were at home?
Excuse me, it was a 42-year stretch. I did my math wrong. 1978 to now is 42 years.
They've both been. Wait, well, here we go. They've both been in Super Bowls during that time, correct? I know one of them.
One was.
It was okay. So the other one was the 60s. You're right. So yes, you're right. So one of these
There's a
teams
hint.
had a
One
Super
was-
Bowl.
one hasn't been to the Super Bowl
Super
since-
Bowl appearance.
One
Yeah.
hasn't been to the Super Bowl since the 60s. There's your hint. The other one has been to a couple of Super Bowls.
Yes.
Since then.
Won
So-
one, lost one.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So basically, and this shouldn't surprise anybody, just because these are not historically. One is a historically good franchise that's built around defense, but that's why typically they're not an offensive team. The other one is a historically terrible franchise, absolutely
Period.
disgusting, awful, horrible.
Misogynistic.
Of course, we are talking about. If you haven't made your guesses yet, we are talking about the New York Jets. Have not had a 4,000-yard passer.
And let's say it with me, Ray. And
The Bears. We haven't done anything since the era of Jim McMahon and William the Fridge Perry, but it's okay. The Bears. All right, let's go.
Yes. Strong
go.
John Candy. Strong John Candy coming out of you there, even though he's Canadian.
You remember when Rex Grossman took us to the Super Bowl? That was a bad game. Peyton Manning picked us apart, but it's okay. Go Bears. Go Bears. All right. All right, sorry. I'm done. I'm sorry.
We should have done the whole episode like that. Oh, welcome, Tom.
Welcome, Geeks Sports. All right, we got Pepsi Cola here. We got ourselves a bottle of water. We're going to talk about the Xbox. Well, so is the Xbox, did they make those in Chicago? They don't? Well,
Chicago.
No, I care.
Chicago.
Chicago? Is that, you call it Chicago? You call it Chicago?
Chicago. For those of you listening at home, you can turn your headphone volume back up now.
Sorry.
No, Jets and the Bears. Yeah, no, it's. You think that would be a wake up call, but it won't be.
I mean, but historically, these are two of the franchises that have the worst quarterback play in football history.
You know, the Jets are going to give their fans hope again in the draft, and just.
But think about that. Even that means expansion franchises like the Jaguars and the Panthers and
Jags,
the Texans.
just the Jags, the Cardinals.
like they've had 4,000-yard passes. Just the Jets and the Bears.
The Oakland Raiders, the Los Angeles Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, all of them.
Wherever they're raiding, they're throwing for passing.
Right. Wherever they're raiding. All areas that don't need to be raided.
Yes.
Right? Maybe Oakland. No, I'm just kidding. No, Oakland's a nice place. I don't know. I've never been there. It's probably not. But anyway.
I've driven by Oakland.
Yeah.
I've driven by Oakland or through Oakland, but it's all right.
I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, it's Baytown, right?
Yeah.
So it's across the bay, as I say. But yeah, no, very interesting. So basically what we're saying is that baseball ruins everything. Football continues to impress. Yeah. And then basketball, Ray. We got to talk about a little bit of basketball.
Yes, the NCAA tournament is happening as we speak. It is the Final Four. Baylor just knocked off Houston. This is Baylor going for their first championship since 1948. They destroyed Houston, by the way. So they are in the championship game. As we're recording this, it is warm-ups currently for UCLA versus Gonzaga. Obviously, Gonzaga has been the hands-on favorites from the beginning of the tournament. UCLA, the Cinderella story, they are the 11 seed coming out of their conference, out of their region. UCLA, historically one of the best basketball programs. This is a great story. Is it going to be the heavy favorites, or is it going to be the heavy underdogs with the history looking to write a new chapter? We're going to have to see. I'm picking the Zags personally. But.
I was going to say, going by history, UCLA is going to win that game because Gonzaga just always seems to crap the bed in the tournament.
The Final Four, yeah.
But with that said, I am actually hoping that Gonzaga goes all the way this year. You want to talk about a tortured basketball school? That is one of them. UCLA is not
close.
Tortured.
Always so
they are
close
not
yet
tortured.
So far. Yeah.
And I would like to have two teams in there that both deserve to win. So.
Yeah, again, Baylor, not since 1948. That's 70 years ago. Right. 80 years ago.
No, almost. No. What year did you say?
48? 1948?
72, 73. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so
if it was 40, that would be 81 years. So we're not good at math here on Geeks. We're not nerds, guys. We're geeks. We can't think.
Usually I can do math, but again, I'm really nursing this soda.
You know what? I'm gonna draw this one out. 2021 minus 1948.
73 years.
That carry the 7, Ray. It's 73 years. You heard it first. I used the Mac calendar, so you know it's right.
Yeah, no, I messed up with the
You want to know how I do math, by the way? You want to know how I do math? You said 80 years. I go, no, my dad was born in 1940 and he's 80, so it can't be that.
Yeah.
Then I did some quick
reverse math.
I did some quick. Yeah. What is it? It's not. What are those things? With the little things on the math thing. The abacus. I did some quick abacus work in my head.
Yes.
And came up with almost the correct number.
Yes. I'm just slightly ahead of Lee today with the math, but not much. Right. Not by much.
That's all right. No one's coming here for our math tips. Trust me.
No, exactly. But yeah, so that does it for a shortened sports section this week.
Yeah. Wasn't that short when we talked about baseball, you jerks?
Yeah, baseball ruins everything. But yes, so that brings us now to it's more like a question of the week, I would think.
Question of the week. It's time for the question of the week. It's time for the question of the week. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's one of my better ones.
Building off that, Lee came up with this one, of course, as always.
The master of the mashup. Yeah. That's what I want to be referred to moving forward.
Talking about Godzilla versus Kong, where we were basically like, what's two sports? Iconic teams, athletes, whatever from history that never got a chance to meet, would you like to see meet up in a matchup? Yes. So, Lee, I'll let you go first, unless you want me to go first. But
well, okay, we can go back and forth like we usually do. I actually need your help with one.
Okay.
You know, I want to see. This is an athlete. This is not a team.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Babe Ruth. Period. Just want to see him play baseball. Right. But the question is, who would he go up against? Judge, or do I need to pick like a Hank Aaron, or do I need to pick, you know what I mean?
Like in a home run derby, you kind of say?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. If you go with somebody from the steroid era, you go with Bonds, right? But I mean, the thing is, if you say currently,
it's probably Judge.
Trout. I would say Mike Trout, actually.
That's fair too.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't mind seeing against Bonds. Here's the deal. If you gave Babe Ruth, I mean, you could probably put Maris and Mantle in this argument too, but if you gave them modern equipment,
yeah,
that would be a spectacle to see.
That would be.
That would be the most sold out event in history.
Yeah.
To see that's my first one. You can keep going, because obviously I have some hot ones.
Mine would be Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson.
That would be phenomenal. That would be just phenomenal from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing. But yeah, like two very different styles, two very different boxers.
Who do you think wins? Who do you think wins that one? I mean, I think I would have a clear winner in that, to be fair.
To me, I think it's Tyson.
Tyson would knock his ass out. No offense to Muhammad Ali, but
I think Tyson wins that just because. Here's the thing: the only way Ali wins that is if he draws it out
and tires him out.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
But if he connects with one punch, that's it.
Exactly. All Tyson needs is to hit him with one uppercut, and it's over.
Right.
And it just So that's my thoughts on that. Yeah, I would say Tyson versus Ali would be an all-time great match, but I think that Tyson wins it. Yeah.
I want to see Pittsburgh's Iron Curtain against any Tom Brady team from history. Any one of them. It could be his rookie year. It could be last year. I don't care. And it's not because I want to see, anybody get hurt. I just think some of these older football teams would hurt some of these more modern football teams.
Yeah. No, I think if you took any historically great defense, whether it was the 2000 Ravens, the 85 Bears.
Oh, the Ravens would be so devastating.
Yeah, the 90 Giants, or the Steel Curtain. I don't think Brady wins any of those, honestly.
No, and that's why I'd want to see it, because here's the thing. Actually, it plays right into it. You can't doubt him either at the same time.
Right.
Now, the real question, Ray, is what are the rules?
Well, yeah.
What rules are we using? Because if it's today's rules, he's going to win.
Right.
Brady's going to win.
True, too. Like, there's a lot of those guys, a lot more penalties would be called now than some of those guys. So that would be interesting. For sure. But I still think they would adjust, or you would do what Lawrence Taylor did and just break his leg.
Yeah, I mean, look. Here's the deal. Like, one of the things about Brady, and this isn't so much an argument against him, but he has very much benefit, as all quarterbacks have had today, of the rules of they're protected.
Yes.
And again, if he's playing in the 70s, he's not playing till he's 45.
No.
Now that's not his fault. That's good on him for figuring it out, right? I mean, to be fair. But yeah, I would love to see some old school hard nosed football, like the Lombardi led Packers against the today's Packers. That would be that would be amazing. You know what I mean? Aaron Rodgers, by the way, gonna host Jeopardy for 2 weeks. Just remembered that.
Huh?
Seriously, that is happening. I forgot to say that earlier. That's a Geeks Who Like Sports moment.
Yeah, I mean, they're really looking for. Well, they're. I mean, obviously, since Trebek's passing, they're very much looking for different hosts. They had, I think, Dr. Oz.
But they did this with
Ken Jennings for a couple weeks.
Didn't they do this with Wheel of Fortune or not Wheel of Fortune? Sorry, with The Price is Right. There was another show that did this. They kept going through different hosts,
right, to try and find something.
They eventually found. Oh, you know what it was, dude? It was like Good Morning America or something. It was Regis. Sorry,
That's
it was when Regis left.
Yeah.
They went through a lot of different people, and then of all people, Strahan.
Strahan,
yeah. And then he's gone now too, because he's like, football's better.
Yeah, I think it's Seacrest now, right? Or
I don't. Who cares? I don't watch Good Morning America. But no, for a hockey team, I thought a lot about a hockey team. The issue with hockey, Ray, is that hockey's probably evolved more than any other sport over the last 50, 60 years. To be fair, right? Baseball's barely evolved.
Yeah.
Outside just the human performance side of it, right?
Right.
But hockey as a game has evolved. So it's like it'd be super unfair for me to be like, oh, Gretzky's Oilers versus today's Oilers, because today's Oilers they'd kill him. Right. And there might be people that Wayne Gretzky's today's Oilers would kill Wayne Gretzky's 80s Oilers.
Yeah, from the sticks to the skates to everything was so different back then.
Right. It's just it's not impossible. a fair competition. Now, then people say, well, if the everything was even, right? You can't do that either. It's too hypothetical for me.
Right.
So one of the things I started thinking about, like the things that went wrong in hockey. One of the greatest players of all time was Maurice the Rocket Richard. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure a lot of people know about this, but he was French-Canadian, and in Canada when he played, I'll just say there was racism towards French-Canadians at that time. Mm. So Maurice Richard probably won a lot more leading goal scorer challenges than people realize. It's well known now that they took points away from him, that they hurt his chances of winning awards at the end of the year. If you can hear my daughter downstairs, she's devastated by it. But what I would like to see, and I gotta say this, I don't have a horse on either side here. I have tremendous respect for both of the athletes I'm about to say. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I would like to see, with fair rules, Gordie Howe and Maurice the Rocket Richard face off against each other. Okay, because Gordie Howe, who is a god in hockey, great human being. Before the great one, there was Gordie,
right?
Okay, and several other athletes, but he benefited from being a white man at that time. Okay, only in the sense of they were not giving Richard a fair chance. Okay, this has nothing to do with Gordie Howe himself. He was a tremendous human being. Right. But I'd love to see those two play against each other again. This is a little bit different than what the mashup demands. Yeah. But like in a modern setting, just those two in their prime today. Yeah. I would love to see that because I think it would be amazing hockey. Right. Yeah. We need to do a basketball one.
Well, the easy one is LeBron versus Jordan. That's what I was thinking. Like,
but no one would ever suggest that, right? No one. You know what I'd like to see?
What?
Not Dr. J. I'd like to see Julius Erving against LeBron.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm gonna go back. Wilt Chamberlain against Jordan. Oh, that would be good.
I think that
he scored 100 points in a game. No one else has done that. Or you know what? How about this? For basketball, I would just like to see Kobe again. Period.
There you go.
That would be a miracle, and that death affected me way more than I thought it would. And I would love to see Kobe Bryant again. Period.
Yeah. No, that's true. That is.
So on that somber note, we want to know what you think.
Yeah.
Comment below.
We love that. Yeah, that does it for episode 103.
Godzilla vs. Kong was great. Go see Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah, go enjoy that one, folks. It is a good one. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. I genuinely appreciate it.
Not me though, just Ray.
Yeah, we genuinely appreciate it. Sorry.
Thank you. Just Ray. I really hate all of you. And
sorry,
wish you would stop
my phone continues to blow up. It's late on a Saturday, so but thank you all so much for tuning in. We genuinely appreciate it.
What's the next episode, Ray? What number's the next episode?
104.
That means that our exclusive T-shirts will be on sale in a week. Be ready for that.
Sweet! Can't wait. We've been waiting for those. I cannot honestly.
It's worth the wait. It's going to be worth the wait.
Yeah, you guys are going to enjoy these. These are looking really good. They're going to be really great. I think that Lee and his team over there has knocked them out of the park. Although I will say that the figure looks a little bit like me. Some folks have pointed that out.
It looks like us together. Yes. If they merged us into a hockey.
Yeah, don't do that again. Caitlin sent so many stupid freaking photoshops this week. Like,
for those of you who might not follow our Facebook page, if you want to see Ray's head on my body, or
no, you don't want to see that. Go to our Facebook page. Don't look at that.
There's one of them that's extremely convincing. I had to look at it twice. I'm like, I don't own a shirt like that.
Yeah, unbelievable.
No, anyway. It's called Fandom Ray. It's what you always wanted, so enjoy every second of it.
Oh, not like
that. I didn't think I'd be known for a bald is beautiful gift, but I have to live with that now for the rest of my life. Over 1 million shares.
That's Caitlin's fault, too.
You're right. Caitlin, who's editing this episode right now, we appreciate you.
No, we appreciate you, Caitlin.
We really do, because honestly, none of us want to edit the episode or produce it like
we should mention also we're doing something special this coming week.
On Twitch, possibly in future weeks too.
Yes, on Twitch on Wednesday night, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. We are doing a special 1-hour mini-sode. I mean,
live
on Twitch. It Used to be the old episode length. Now it's the mini-sode. Yeah, no, so go to twitch.tv/RayCarcillo. Be sure to follow there. But 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, we're doing a special live show. We're going to try to do a live show as we're doing some tests to try and, continue to expand everything here at Geeks Who Like Sports. So if you're not following me on my Twitch channel, go there now, because that I think is going to be a lot of fun. Also,
I'm a subscriber.
Yes. Subscribe, especially subscribe. Subscribe is great. Follow,
yes, don't follow my Twitch channel because nothing's going on there.
Yeah, at least follow, but if you can subscribe too, that would be terrific. But yeah, so definitely check that out this week. Of course, also at streamlounge.io, we've got more Falcon and the Winter Soldier next Friday, episode 4, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And also Wednesday, right before our live show, 5 p.m. Pacific.
We'll be live.
5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Yes,
right.
On Stream Lounge, doing Mighty Ducks Game Changers episode 2. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But, and again, as always, thank you all for sharing it, sending it out to your friends, bringing up new followers, had a few more folks join us this week. We always appreciate that. You can hear us wherever podcasts are heard, Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Google Podcasts. I'm not sure what they keep changing their names. I can't remember what it is now. But all that stuff, we are there. iHeartRadio, all that fun stuff, of course. Join the Facebook, follow the Twitter, follow the Instagram. We appreciate it, as always. So for Lee, I am Ray. Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 103. We will see you next week with more Geeks Who Like Sports and T-shirts in episode 104. Good night, everybody.